Hello. My name's Forrest Gump. My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
This is one of the most famous quotes of the film Forrest Gump. It describes perfectly the genuineness and the naivety of the young protagonist of this film, directed by Robert Zemeckis, which won 6 Academy Awards in 1995. However, many people don't know that this film, which was released in 1996, is based on the Winston Groom homonyms book written and published in 1985. Winston Groom is an American writer. He was born on March 23, 1944 in Washington, D.C. He grew up in Mobile, Alabama, where he attended University Military School and then entered the University of Alabama. He graduated in 1965, and while working as the editor of a literary magazine at the University of Alabama, Groom decided against his ambition of becoming a lawyer and instead decided to become a writer. He was drafted to serve in the Vietnam War from 1965 to 1969. During his military service, Groom achieved the rank of captain. After he was out of the army, he moved to New York to follow his dream, to become a full-time author. He won the Pulitzer Prize thanks to his novel Gone in the Sun, published in 1988. In 1985, he began writing his most important and best-known novel, Forrest Gump. Although it was published in 1986, the book was not well known until it was adapted for the film of the same name in 1994. In fact, in the wake of the film's success, Forrest Gump became a bestseller and 1.7 million copies of the novel were sold worldwide. Groom, trying to build on the film's popularity, in 1995 published the sequel of Forrest Gump, called Forrest Gump & Co., but it didn't obtain the same success. Even if they are very different, both the film and the novel tell the story of a simple-minded innocent man whose life intersects the critical historical moments that occur during the tumultuous period of American history, which lasted 30 years and includes the civil rights movements, the feminist movements, and America's involvement in Vietnam. Both the film and the book criticize the society and institutions which give importance only to appearance by exalting the ability to find hope in a cynical society. As said, the film differs substantially from Winston Groom's novel on which it is based, including Gump's personality, several events that were depicted, and the final part that is completely different. Forrest Gump is a strong and kind guy with an intelligence quotient of 70. Even though he is lacking of intelligence, he fulfills his life and don't let what other people say get in his way. Thanks to his incredible speed, he starts playing football for the university team and shows an innate predisposition for math and physics. He meets Baba, a guy who teaches him how to play the mouth organ, while in the film he meets him in the army. They have dreams of opening up a shrimping business when they get out of the army. In first grade, Forrest meets the love of his life, Jenny Karen, who later convinces him to play in her group. He serves in the US Army and is sent to Vietnam with Baba, who dies during a mission with Forrest by his side. In memory of Baba, when Forrest gets out of the army, he buys a big shrimping boat and starts the shrimping business he and Baba dreamt of. Even though Forrest wasn't able to save Baba's life, he did rescue his lieutenant. His name was Dan, Lieutenant Dan. When they were both put in the hospital together after Forrest was shot in the buttocks running away from the enemies, they became good friends and speak a lot about life and philosophy. Unfortunately, Lieutenant Dan loses his legs. While in hospital, he discovers to be very good at tennis table. In fact, he is chosen to represent the United States in a tennis table tournament held in China. Once he is back to the United States, he starts to live many strange adventures which are not mentioned in the film. In fact, in the second part of the novel, Forrest becomes first a musician, an actor, a world-class chess player. Finally, he becomes a NASA astronaut and goes to outer space, crashes into a jungle, and is taken hostage by cannibals. However, besides the omission of all these adventures, the main differences between the film and the novel are the description of the characters and the story between the two main characters, Jenny and Forrest, which in the book and in the film evolves and ends in two different ways. As for the analysis of the characters, the first main difference is the personality of Forrest's mother. In the film, she has a strong character. She always protects and encourages him. She influences and shapes the way Forrest thinks about life. He never lets anyone tell him he's different just because he's simple-minded. While in the book, she's very weak and fragile. She's always crying and worried for his son. In fact, Forrest often avoids telling her his misadventures because he's afraid of her reaction. Jenny in the book is a common girl who lives with her family. She has no problems throughout her childhood. She's just a normal girl with regular problems at her age. In the film, she is a more complex character. She had a bad childhood being raised by an alcoholic and abusive father. Her mother had died and her aunt was also abusive. Gump's core character and personality are also changed from the novel. In the film, Forrest appears to be an innocent and naive person, and is portrayed as more morally conscious and caring, with his stupid is as stupid does, while in the book is more ironic. He's aware of his condition, and he often repeats, "Maybe I'm an idiot, but I'm not stupid." He's not completely pure, and is not as genuine as the Forrest interpreted by Tom Hanks. He is simply more human, with all the imperfections that it implies. Anyway, the greatest difference between the novel and the film is the evolution and the conclusion of the relationship between the two main characters, Forrest Gump and Jenny Curran. Jenny and Forrest were inseparable throughout their childhood. Jenny was the only girl who invited Forrest to sit next to her on the bus on the first day of school. She taught him to read, so he wouldn't be made fun of for being slow. She stood up for him against the bullies at school. She was his rock. In return, Forrest shared his carefree attitude and unique view of life. His friendship granted her an escape from her unhappy home life and barred her from loneliness. In the book, the relationship between Forrest and Jenny is much more physical than the film. In fact, they have several sexual intercourses, and when Forrest discovers to have a son, he doesn't do anything to involve him in his life. Jenny meets and gets married with another man called Donald, whereas in the film there is a crescendo of emotions, sensations, until the final dramatic turn of events. Jenny gets sick, probably due to AIDS, and decides to marry Forrest, the father of her son. Jenny dies. Forrest has to raise his incredibly clever son alone. It's time for the first day of school. It's time to get on the bus, the same bus in which many years before his father Forrest and his mother Jenny met. The film has undoubtedly a greater emotional appeal than the book. That's why it is considered as one of the most beautiful films ever made. Robert Zemeckis was able to seize the most significant aspects of the ironic and nice book of Winston Groom, which surely is not a masterpiece, and to do an in-depth analysis of the characters' personalities. In fact, while in the book they appear flat and shallow, in the film they acquire a new and complex identity. In conclusion, both the book and the film, with different outcomes, want to stress and exalt the issue of the abnormality. On the background, the United States, which has to deal with the Vietnam War and its opponents, with the feminist movement and the civil rights claims. In evidence, the diversity, that here becomes richness for everyone. It is not a lack of something, but the ability of a person to act, to do, to think in his or her original and specific way, just like Forrest Gump.